Okay, so I'm gonna press the other button. Okay, we're live. Here we are. Um, Exit's here. Hello, Exit. I should like write some sort of intro. I'm just not that sort of person, though. I'm not the sort of person who does that. I was watching the T-Pain intro song before, and I wish I were cool enough to have a T-Pain intro song. It's, it's such a good song. Okay. We just we just start going and then we go and at the end we just stop. That's kind of my style. We yeah, there's no intro, there's no outro. There's not even barely a middle, but we just kind of power through it. It's fine. Anyways, so we're just kind of like wait. Oh, I should send out a tweet. That's something I should do. We're just kind of like getting the show started. We're probably I would say about 5 minutes behind schedule at this point. That's okay. It's okay. We're just in live streams. This is the sort of thing that happens. If this were like a planned show, uh, maybe we would get off the ground easier. But it's the first 5 minutes. First 5 minutes are always kind of weird and awkward. That's why like most people like if you're watching live like whatever just live with it and most people will watch the replay and there will be a timestamp to just completely skip this part so those people won't even matter really unless they want to watch this beginning part for some reason but you know uh it's the way it is. uh okay, so okay, oh, that thing is broken again. Yeah. So okay. So there are two facts that are both true. The first fact is exit barely said anything, so none of you missed anything. The other fact is that the plugin broke again. So okay, the plugin is better now. You missed exit say like 3 words and then be silent the rest of the time, so you weren't missing much. I was basically talking to myself. Uh, okay, so yeah. Oh, I should do that thing where I preload some days so that when I go back in time, it's a little bit easier. Do I click the preload days button? I don't think. I don't know. Does that work? I don't think so. Okay. So, how's everybody doing? uh, okay. So, there have been some changes to the map recently, and I don't mean like like content wise. I mean like just the map is different now. Like there's new features. Like for example, there's this feature where you can draw different circles and you can make them different sizes. Like you can make like concentric circles like that. And so you can make all sorts of circles and you can make them all over the place. You can draw circles wherever you want. And then, oh, the really cool thing? If you make a giant circle, it's not even like a circle anymore. It becomes like an ellipse. Like you see what I mean? Whoa, that's cool. Um, anyways, so that's a new feature. Um, it's actually pretty useful. A lot of people have been asking us for this feature. For example, in Tokmak, I will draw some range circles. So there's the 30-kilometer range circle and the 12-kilometer range circle. I don't remember what these numbers mean. I'm going to use my cheat sheet. I'm going to use my cheat sheet because I have a cheat sheet. And I want to pretend I'm smart, but I'm using a cheat sheet, so it doesn't really count anymore. Okay, so this 12-kilometer circle is uh this is the range that if anything within 12 kilometers Ukraine can get like total control over the artillery situation. Now there's the 7 kilometer range circle, and the 7 kilometer range circle is fire control. So a 7 kilometer range circle is a fire control. The 12 kilometer range circle is it's the artillery dominance circle, and then there is the 18 kilometer circle, which is look at my cheat sheet. Okay, the 18 kilometers is fire supremacy. So yeah, anyway, these are just kind of the concentric circles of how close Ukraine needs to get in order to have varying degrees of control of the artillery. So this outer circle is kind of like the max range of their artillery, where they don't really have artillery control. And as you get in towards the center, they get increasingly more artillery control. And this inner circle is fire control. Hello, John. We can't really hear you that time, but your mic is doing that thing again. Oh, I think you need to like shove it in your face. I think that's the thing. So you just shove it in your mouth.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Wonderful. I just have to talk louder because my webcam has a bad mic.
Yeah, that happened to my iPad. The mic on my iPad like broke. It's like the forward mic, so you can only have the backwards mic now. So it feels like I'm talking to people from like 10 miles away. It's a great experience. So yeah, we might make these range circles some sort of like dialogue box or like a little helper menu or something to make these circles. I don't know. These specific ranges anyway. How do you, John? What do you think of these ranges? The varying supremacy versus dominance and whatever.
I will obviously defer to the wisdom of the particular person that created this. But I mean, on the face of it, as someone that is not, I guess, who does not work in artillery, I mean, it seems quite sensical. Just in terms of as they get closer in, they will be able to leverage a greater fraction of their fires assets simply because you know they don't have that many, relatively speaking, that can say range beyond 30 kilometers. Some of their 155 self-propelled guns can, the peons, 2S7s, etc., gimlers, etc.
Yeah.
But as they get closer and closer in, they can begin to leverage more and more of their fires assets. So,
Yeah. So the rule of thumb that I've heard is that the range that matters for an artillery gun is 2/3 of the range that it's capable of shooting with that particular charge. So I think like as these circles go in, it's like fewer charges. So I think like this outer circle is like the max charge. It's 2/3 of the max charge for the longest range guns, and as they go in, it's 2/3 of the max charge for the next for like normal guns, and 2/3 for like the medium charge, and then 2/3 of the small charge. So that's kind of what these circles represent.
the other thing I'll add to that is the reason why that's significant in terms of volume of fire is that the wear of barrel wear is largely proportional to the propellant charge used. So if you're using a greater propellant charge, a higher zoning solution, as it's called, sometimes you're going to have more barrel wear. That's why the lifespan of barrels is measured in EFC, effective full charges. So as you get closer, even if you're already in range of whatever it is you're attempting to, execute a fire mission against, as you get closer, you can use, fewer propellant charges for those fire missions, and thus presuming, you have the shells available, you could potentially dramatically increase your volume of fire because barrel wear becomes less of a concern.
Yeah. So Anyways, I drew these circles around Tokmak, and it kind of shows you how much distance Ukraine would have to go in order to start really influencing Tokmak. And this is kind of arbitrary. And Tokmak is kind of an arbitrary target. It's just for the sake of example, just for the sake of conversation. It's so they would have to go for like another 5 kilometers before they really start influencing Tokmak with their artillery. So yeah. So that's a new feature to the map. I think it's a cool new feature. It's nice. There's another new feature where these boxes now draw correctly. That's cool. But anyways, there is a topic that I wanted to ask you about, and it is this submarine. Do you want to talk about this submarine?
Oh yeah. So this thing, it's a UUV unmanned underwater vehicle called Marichka. It is very, very large. I haven't bothered to do a dimensional estimate of it. I'm sure somebody has. I just can't be bothered to do it myself or to find somebody else's right now. But this thing is very, very sizable. Allegedly a range in excess of 1,000 kilometers. This is essentially it's a submarine in miniature, for lack of a better term. I'm I've seen some of their UUV proposals before. This is not one of the ones I've read about previously, so I'm not really familiar with the specifics beyond that. But this is very hefty. You can do some considerable stuff with this thing.
So just for reference, these are people. So these three guys are like they're just man-sized. So it looks like it's maybe like I don't know, like 1.5 meters in diameter or something like that. It's like a little bit more than a human torso. Maybe like a torso and a half, something like that in diameter. And the length is like the length of this truck trailer. And I'm assuming maybe it's like 6 meters or something. I don't know. I don't know how big truck trailers are, but it's about the truck trailer length and about a human torso and a half thick. So it's pretty substantial. It's not like those little tiny boats they're playing with. This is like a lot more. Do you have any idea what will be used for?
I mean, you could fit a mighty amount of explosive filler in there if you wanted to blow something up. I mean, if you wanted to sail that into, under a ship and blow out its keel, that might be one way to do it, depending on the depth of water it can operate in. I did actually, just for some context, regarding other large UUVs that are in service or in development. The largest one I think that's currently in development for the U.S. Navy is called Orca, and it's 16 meters long. I think, sorry, excuse me. It's either, I think it was lengthened, sorry, to 26 meters long. It has like a range of like 10,000 kilometers. So this would be, in the grand scheme of things, probably a mid-sized UUV. But I mean, this is for littoral operations in the Black Sea. This is pretty substantial.
Yeah. I mean, this is just like kind of looking at like a person next to it. It kind of looks like someone could like crawl in if they really wanted to. Like it looks like it would be big enough to like have a person inside. Uh, whether it'd be comfortable or not would be a different story, but uh, it's pretty hefty. Um, Exit. What do you think of this little thingy? This new toy.
I'm so excited. The biggest problem with the surface vehicles is that Russia can see them coming. And they can't see this coming, and that's excellent. There's also an idea that they would be able to target submarines, which so far Ukraine doesn't seem to have the ability to do that. I don't know, like without having more details about it, I think it's impossible for us to actually kind of assess whether that's accurate or not. But generally, the the number of targets that are much more available to this particular weapon is like way more and really exciting for me.
So regarding, I guess, detection, it is underwater, so obviously they can't see it visually on the surface. That said, depending on how noisy it is, when it's underway, the Russians may be able to leverage their ASW, their anti-submarine warfare capabilities against it. Again, depending on how loud it is once in operation. If it's quite loud, depending on, what depth it's operating at and distance from, Russian sensors, then, there's a chance they may be able to pick it up on sonar. And, at that point, they can try and engage with like ASW torpedoes. That would be an option available to them. They also have, I think, some, like depth charge launchers, etc. So they aren't totally defenseless against UUVs, but it takes the fight to a different dimension than what we've seen previously, where it's primarily essentially anti-surface warfare, against small vessels, which has already been, pretty well refined, just kind of globally. But this will force them to commit to an actual ASW component of the naval theater, which they have not had to do previously.
So I had a question about that. Those same sensing elements, would they not be able to sense the USVs that they've been using previously, or should they be able to sense those?
Potentially, yeah. If you have a sensor appropriately positioned, given how, depending on the acoustic output of those USVs, I mean, submarines can detect surface combatants. So again, it's all really a question of how loud is the thing that you're trying to detect, how many decibels is it putting out, what's the ambient, background noise in decibels, and then what's your actual position of your sensor relative to what it is you're trying to detect. And then there's more complicated factors in there, like water current, the thermal layers, thermal ducts, etc. But kind of at the core level, it is to some extent a function of the amount of noise that the thing is putting out relative to just kind of the baseline level of background noise relative to the distance to the sensors, and of course, depending on the sensitivity of the sensors, etc.
So does that tell us anything about the attack on the SIG, for instance, and the last attack on the Kerch Bridge, that they were able to approach both of those targets without really any notice, it seems like?
I'm going to be honest. I mean, in that case, that wouldn't detection for that would mainly fall down to like surface search radar, which presumably they weren't detected until they were fairly close. I would assume just because of how low lying, how low set the USVs are above the water line. And then also depends, since the guns are at a lower elevation than the surface search radar just on the Russian surface combatants, they're going to have a shorter line of sight, so a shorter distance to the horizon. So, even if the radar see it at, say, 15 kilometers, the guns might not be able to engage, until 7 to 10 kilometers. I'm making those numbers up, but, it will depend on those factors. And then I'm going to be honest, I mean, those things, if they have electric propulsion, they might be fairly quiet, all things considered. They are on the surface and they're going quite fast, though, so that would cut against that. But I mean, again, I would expect the main burden of detection in this case to fall to the surface search radars rather than sonar.
We know that they are looking for them just with aircraft, helicopters, and planes. So I wonder how much the other sensing options that they have out there are really effective at sensing them versus being able to just see them from the air and see like the trail that they're leaving behind, etc.
So for the rotary wing assets, I don't think they have helicopter based search radars. A couple of Western countries do. I know the UK does. I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head if the US Navy does, but I don't think Russia, that they operate any helicopters that have any sort of airborne radar. So it would, as you said, be those helicopters trying to visually spot the USVs of their wakes. I don't know. I think the A50Us have a surface search function, but I don't really know where they're deployed or what exactly they're doing or what the resolution of that would be. So I don't know how relevant that is to countering the USVs.
Okay. We have some questions asking things that I think are completely unknowable. Like, what would be the sonar cross section of this vehicle? I have no idea. I don't like. Could you even estimate that? We don't even know what it's made out of.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could text a submarine designer, an attack submarine designer I know, but I suspect the answer is going to be there's no way to calculate that.
And so there's another comment regarding NATO intelligence and using it to plan like attack routes for the submarine to avoid Russian detection that way. I'm sure that would be useful. I'm sure it's something they use already too. So,
I mean, arguably Russia even knows they use them because there's warnings that happen every time there are certain ISR assets up over the Black Sea. So,
yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. Is there any other boat news? Boat related topic?
There was an attack this morning. Suez.
Somebody crashed in the Suez?
Yeah, I think it's clear now, but two vessels collided in the canal.
Well, it's not good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Exit.
No, don't be. This morning there was the footage of what is presumably claimed by the Russian MOD to be a Ukrainian boat out just east of Snake Island. We haven't seen any confirmation of it from the Ukrainian side. There doesn't appear to be anybody that I've seen with conclusive data to corroborate any of that story specifically. There are some ships that kind of moved into the area that maybe lead you to believe that that was something they were looking at. It looks like maybe there was some other planes starting to kind of look around that area, but specifically what happened and whether or not the Russian MOD story is entirely accurate, I don't think we actually know that.
And is it true that Ukraine denies this happened?
I hadn't seen that, but I've been at work until just very recently, so okay. You could educate me on that.
I don't know. That was a question. Well, Grey Wolf says that they have, and Grey Wolf is usually pretty smart. So he says that Ukraine has categorically denied on the record that this happened, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. They deny things often that are true. So I don't know. Like they denied having anything to do with the Kerch Bridge, and then they released a video on how they did it. So.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like until we can find actual evidence or somebody has a plausible claim with video that isn't so grainy that you can't even tell what they're firing at specifically, I I would take it all with a very large grain of salt.
Okay, so we have a question for John. How do S-200s work?
In what sense?
How are they doing ground attack?
Okay, so my understanding is that it kind of has a built-in land attack capability through two methods, uh, depending on the range to the target. So there's been discussion that they were modified. I don't think that was necessarily the case. So I and others have found documentation that indicated very conclusively that it did have a land attack capability out to, I think, 40 kilometers against targets that were illuminated by its fire control radar. So, radio frequency contrast targets, in other words. It was never really used just in practice. The Soviets messed around with it, but the accuracy was god awful, so they kind of just gave up on it. But I think it still has that capability. Beyond that, it does have a surface-to-surface capability out to 600 kilometers. I found somebody linked me to an interview that was published quite recently with a Ukrainian air defense operator who said that, oh yeah, several years ago we tested it in surface-to-surface mode and got 600 kilometers out of it. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. So that implies to me that it does have this capability out of the box, which is kind of what I had heard by word of mouth, but I couldn't really find definitively referenced in the, Russian language or Ukrainian language for that matter, written technical source. I'm presuming it's inertial navigation of some kind. It does have an IMU, an inertial measurement unit of some sort, just to implement its semi-active radar homing guidance. But yeah, I presume it's some sort of inertial guidance scheme. The precision is obviously like bad, really, really bad, on border of a couple kilometers. But yeah,
That's really bad.
I'm being told my microphone is awful. Yes, I know that there is nothing I can physically do about it. I have my web. Actually, okay, I'm gonna get on my phone, see if that's any better.
Okay. So yeah, that is a long range, although very inaccurate. Okay, so while he sets up his phone, there's a few things that I just want to talk about on the periphery. There was a video that came out today of a CV-90 engaging up near Klischiivka. Now, I don't know if this video is recent. I think it's not recent. I think it might be from like 2 weeks ago, maybe, or maybe even 3 weeks ago. If it is recent, it means that Ukraine has pushed back Russia, because Russia had pushed forward beyond this point, as you can see in the map. But I think it's old. Maybe from like the beginning of July, perhaps, or even like the second week of July. Anyway, so that's one thing I just wanted to get out of the way. Are there any other things I want to get out of the way? I don't think so. I think that's about it. There was tonight.
Did you want to talk about what?
Okay,
Sorry, what's happening in Moscow?
sure. I have no idea what's going on in Moscow.
There's
Was there another drone attack?
our level. There is, and apparently there's some videos in the spreadsheet for you to open.
Oh, okay. Hopefully they're not bad videos. They're just questions.
No,
He just says explosions, question mark, explosion, question mark, explosion, question mark. um, um, give me a moment.
it sounds like there is indeed another.
Okay, so this is this this is what it says. Oh, I don't wanna show that. I don't wanna show that either. That's showable. Okay, here we go. Um, Russia repels a blow on Moscow. Explosions. this is um this is what he wants me to talk about, right? I obviously don't know anything because I've been preparing for this. So like anything that's happened in the past like hour, I have no idea. There's more. There are more things to show apparently. Okay. Oh, here's a video. This is great. Videos are great. Whoa, they all flash. You can't hear it, but there's an explosion sound. It sounded like boom.
Fancy.
Okay, let's see if there's another video. Okay. Oh. That's an explosion. Yeah. So all of this has been geolocated, not by me, but by somebody else. Probably, maybe by Gik. I don't know. Was it Gik?
Yes.
The one with the explosions.
Yeah.
So this is it. This is the thing that Gik desperately wanted you to see. It shows air defense firing. Okay, so here's another one. Ooh, an explosion. Okay. So, Gik, do you want to actually talk about it? You can't just come here. You obviously know more about it than I do. Anyways, so yeah, so there's another attack on Moscow. Yesterday there was an attack on Moscow too. There was an explosion. That was last night. I think it happened at like 1 o'clock in the morning local time. So yeah, there's just repeated attacks on Moscow. Okay, so I
think that's 5 days ago.
Is it? Has it been
6? 5? It's 6, I think. Yesterday was 5. I read that somewhere. I think today is 6. How's my mic? Is it better?
It's better.
Wonderful.
Okay. So yeah. So should I get to the news now? To my news? The part that I actually know about. Okay. So okay. So I'm gonna go to a different map. I'm gonna go to Google, and I'm gonna turn on the defenses. There. Okay. So there are multiple opinions on what's going on in Robotyne right now. Personally, I think the Russians have been kicked out of Robotyne, although that's hard to prove. So over the past few days, Ukraine has been pushing through the northern part of the town. They've been getting shelled as they go, obviously. Yesterday, there was a interesting video of Bradleys fighting in the middle of the town. And today, there was another video of Bradleys fighting even further south in the town. And they seemingly captured a T-90, and they were fighting just south of it, shooting all these little buildings. And the buildings they were shooting were kind of these buildings. Now, I personally believe that this attack was not today. I think it was at least 2 or 3 days ago. What exactly that means, I'm not sure. The other Bradleys were fighting around here. They were shooting kind of these houses. Now, Russia claims to have done a counterattack today, but I will remind you that they claim to counterattack like the day before they lose a town, literally every single town. So they always go out with a bang, I guess. So, but they claim that they counterattacked and retook like half the town. Now, it's possible that they were still in these southern houses and they counterattacked back up and retook like the street maybe, and then you could claim that that was half the town. That is possible. There's literally no evidence of it, but that would be a plausible explanation for, and like in other words, they might not be lying. But personally, I don't think that's true, and there's no evidence to support it. I think more likely they're probably pulling back to this defensive position and getting ready for the Ukrainian push south. Now, I don't know if either of you have an opinion on what's going on in this town. Now, Ukraine had to push in its reserves, the 82nd Brigade, which I believe are pushing kind of on this side, and I believe it's the 47th who are pushing through the town right now. They had some videos of them talking to civilians who are still there for some reason, and her little cat. They're obviously all the civilians are elderly. Anyone healthy left. These are all elderly. You see, she's walking with a cane. All of the people there were basically old women. Now, what exactly will happen after the capture of this town is kind of what I thought would be the main topic today. Now, the way I see it, there's kind of three possibilities of what Ukraine, well, maybe not three. I don't know. There's a number of possibilities. I'm going to go through it now and then retroactively count. So the first possibility is they could just keep going south, and there is this major defensive trench line here that we've seen get built over the course of, I don't know, like a year. It's an extremely large, well-developed defensive position. I personally think that would be a stupid idea. Another option would be that they could continue going south from here, which is to the east of Robotyne, and try to bypass Verbova, and maybe even try to reach I can't say the name of this town. I've tried so many times. Novoprokopivka. Anyway, so they could try to bypass these towns and reach it that way through just going south and then turning west. Another option that I personally think is the best option would be to push down this highway and try to cut off Novopokrovka from the south by maneuvering down the highway, force Russia to withdraw, and then assault Novofedorivka. I personally think this is the best path forward. But I guess we'll see. Because Ukraine is moving down this highway. They have been doing this for about a week. And I don't actually know how far they've gotten. I think this is kind of the minimum. We know that they had kind of a tank battle over here. And I think they could continue going down the highway. And also, they have in the past and could begin doing so again, attack from Bilohiria and try to attack Novopokrovka from the north while bypassing, going down this highway in the south and just force Russia to withdraw. And then you would have Novofedorivka, which is kind of the last line of defense before this kind of giant, ridiculously enormous defensive line. This is like kind of the heart of their defenses right here. This is kind of a dead end. But the point of going this way is not to try to break through these defenses. The point is to put stress on Verbova so you can start assaulting the town from the north and from the west and maybe take the town that way. Personally, this is the way that I would go. The other option would be to go west. To try to bypass, to break through these trenches, which I think Ukraine actually already has. I'm not sure if these trenches are manned by Russians anymore. But most of this is not obviously fortified. Obviously, there's lots of tree lines. All these tree lines are fortified. and there's this kind of little like rivery thing, which is probably also fortified somehow, and this is also very likely very heavily mined. So so this would be the other option. So that'd be what, the fourth option. So I think Ukraine is probably going to do one of these four. If I were to put money on it, I would bet they'd probably try to just go south. just keep doing what they're doing, which is go south. I personally think this is the second best option. I would go this way in the north towards Novopokrovka and try to assault Verbova from both sides. For a few reasons, I think this is a good idea. First, I think just liberating a town is good for morale. And if you could liberate all three of these towns, I think that would also be very good for morale. You could maybe even liberate 5, honestly. But so I think that alone would be good for just morale purposes. Because let's just be honest, like Ukrainian morale is not that great right now. So just doing something like that would be, yeah, it's just like scoring points at that point. So, but also to attack Verbova from the north, because this western approach is very heavily defended with multiple layers of minefields and trench lines. So attacking from both sides, I think, would be easier, even if your goal is to not, if you don't actually want to capture it, but you need to pin down the Russian forces while you move somewhere else. So for that reason, I think attacking Verbova from multiple sides is that'd be my plan personally. Or you could just go south, I guess. I don't think they're going to try to push south from Robotyne, or I didn't think they were going to attack Robotyne in the first place. They seem to be a lot more bold than I am. I'm more risk adverse than I think the Ukrainian general staff. So yeah, this Western approach, it looks the least defended, but the looks can be deceiving because it's probably just a giant minefield. And, moving through giant minefields is not easy. So even if there's not so many trench systems involved. So I hear there's a giant explosion in Moscow. Very exciting.
Is there any advantage terrain-wise of going one way or the other?
Well, this Western approach, it's kind of even, like the ground is even over here, so you're not like fighting uphill so much. It's kind of more like a plateau kind of deal. Whereas everything to this east, you're fighting uphill. This trench line here that you see is basically on the top of a hill. This is, I always forget water words. Was it a ravine or whatever? I can never remember what the water words are. But anyways, so this is kind of low ground here. I could get up to 3D. Let's get some 3D here. Some 3D actions. And we can see how 3D it is. It's kind of a hill though. So these Russian positions are kind of on the hill. So Ukraine would have to fight uphill all through this area, and this is now we're looking west. So you see all this ground to the west is on the high ground, including Robotyne here, which this is why attacking here was so difficult in the first place. Because if you remember, like over here, where was it? Yeah, it was like over here somewhere. They did that really bad push. Oh, it's right here. They did a really bad push with where they lost like 9 BMPs. Remember? They had Robotyne shooting them from here. These like forests on the side of this hill were full of ATGMs, and kind of all of these positions south they're all high ground relative to here. So they were very exposed in this attack. That's why they lost like everything. Like they just lost everything. It was very bad. But But this is why they're surrounded by high ground on like
So is
on three sides. So you go on. Do you have a question?
is there anything out of Robotyne that is not going uphill?
This western side. This western side is like more or less like even. It's like more or less even. Like there's this like little tiny hill, but it's only like a few meters, you know. And then there's like this like little like river thing, so you go down a little bit. But it's like not it's not a bit like crazy. It's like it's like a rolling hill, you know what I mean? Like right. Whereas over here, it's more like hills. Like not really hills, but it's like it's much steeper. It's a lot more of an advantage for
I
the
got you.
defender.
Yep.
And moving along the highway over here is more or less flat too. So yeah, so that's kind of the terrain. uh, so yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me what I think is going to happen next. I think one of these four scenarios will happen next. Probably just going south. It seems that Russia is withdrawing to this trench line. They shelled well with drones. They hit Ukrainians moving up towards this trench with a drone today, or the video came out today. So it seems that they're falling back to this line. Now, what's interesting is the line goes south of Novoprokopivka. Anyway, the line is south of that, so obviously they're going to defend the town. But defending the town is easier because this kind of northern part is on a hill. So, so yeah, there's that. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about this area. Anyway. We're just kind of seeing Ukraine slowly advance. And we're starting to see successes. We're starting to see Russia withdraw from fortified positions to the next line, which is all positive. And we're kind of seeing a prediction that Ukraine has been talking about constantly, that when you break one line, like you break a line, you move up a little bit, you break a line, move up a little bit, break a line, move up a little bit. Eventually, you don't move up a little bit. Eventually, you move up like a few kilometers, and then you start over. So, each of these defensive lines, or maybe the first few are like 50 meters apart, and then like the next few are like 100 meters apart. And then the next one might be 3 kilometers back. So when you look at what Ukraine's offense has been doing, they very, very slowly broke through these defensive positions, and now we might see them move a little bit faster, and then they'll get stuck again. So that's just the nature of how these defensive battles are going to go on for the rest of the war, probably. Did Russia put in a lot of reserves? If you go by rumors, yes. Supposedly they put in, what was the number? Like 50,000 more reserves or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, and I'm not sure if it's true or not. But yeah, there's lots of rumors of them throwing in tons of reserves. They've obviously been sending in their kind of the reserves in the area. And when I say throwing in tons of reserves, I mean moving them from Russia to here. That's what I mean. Moving like tens of thousands of men here from a completely unrelated area. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say like throwing like 50,000. I don't know the exact number. It could be 10,000. It could be 5,000. I don't actually know the number. I just know that people are saying giant numbers. But when people say giant numbers, I tend to not believe them. Could Verbova be the next threat? Be the next target? Yeah, it could be the next target. It's a very difficult target, and the issue is not so much Verbova, because capturing Verbova is probably going to be about as hard as capturing Robotyne was, but the issue is behind Verbova is like this insane defense. It's I don't know. I don't know. It's just I don't know how Ukraine is going to advance without a lot of ammo. Speaking of ammo, there's ammo news, isn't there, John? We had news today about mortars, right?
Yes, yes. So apparently, and I don't have 100% clarity on this because I haven't looked. So I spent an hour and a half at the dentist today, and I didn't really have much free time. But it seems that possibly Ukraine has opened a second production line for 120 millimeter mortar rounds. What I'm not clear on is that if it's an actual second line, or if they've just now named the company that's operating the previously known line. It's Ukrainian Armored Vehicles. That's the name of the company. It looks like at least parts of the line are in 2 different countries, NATO members outside Ukraine, which is pretty standard for most of Ukraine's ammunition lines. A large portion of the work is done outside of Ukraine. I think really the only one that's done mostly in Ukraine is 152, and I've heard very bad things about it. But that's another story. But yeah, this would hopefully help alleviate some of the ammo shortages. There weren't really any specific numbers attached to it, just that they've received thousands of shells, but without a specific time period to go with that. That's really helpful.
Yeah, so just to put it in perspective, Ukraine needs 1 million mortars per month. That is their current need. I don't know how many they're getting. I don't think it's 1 million. I think they're probably. I've heard that they're getting around 300,000 a month. But when I say they need 1 million, that's really the bare minimum. Like anything less than 1 million is like really stretching the ammo thin. Because a million rounds a month is like 20 shells per day per mortar, and 20 a day is nothing. It's like you could fire 20 shells in like what, 2 minutes, 1 minute maybe. But anyways, so any ammo production is really fantastic. If Ukraine can ever get to 1 million shells a month, it would be, I think, one of the biggest game changers that Ukraine could have. I think it's more important than artillery ammo, because it represents so much of both their offensive and defensive potential, having the mortars. And think of it this way: there's a lot. Well, Ukraine needs about 700 more howitzers to fill out their military needs. And they're never going to get those 700 howitzers. And even if they had the 700, they don't have ammo for them. So the difference in the firepower of those 700 howitzers is coming from mortars. So the mortars are incredibly vital to everything, to how the whole military works. And they have like 1/3 of the minimum ammo that they need. So it's this is why it's so important. They need mortar ammo. They need a lot of it. And I don't really know who's producing it for them, because it's not the United States, because we have we can make like 30,000 shells a month. People say that it comes from Bulgaria. I guess that's true. And Romania, maybe. I don't really know their production figures. But whatever it is, they need a lot more ammo. They need like 3-5 times as much ammo as they're getting. So yeah. So yeah, seeing them increase any amount is really good. Anyways, do you know anything about the artillery productions?
I haven't looked super recently. I believe there was the prior announcement that we've hit 24K 155 rounds per month in the U.S. ago. It was announced a few weeks ago, but based upon the timelines, I think we hit it several months ago. As far as I can tell, we're at least 3 months ahead of schedule on the ammo ramp up. The latest statement, I think, from Doug Bush, the chief of Pentagon procurement, DoD procurement, essentially, I believe he made a comment that I think we're going to be most of the way to the 80 to 90,000 round target, I think, within the next 12 months. There's been so many contradictory timelines thrown out. I think first it was 2028, then it was fall 2025, and now it looks like maybe fall 2024. I'm not really sure, but it looks like we are making reasonably rapid progress, all things considered. The Germans are moving enormously quickly. I believe Rheinmetall should have 600,000 rounds worth of capacity, so about half of what the U.S. target is, online sometime next year. If we're talking, 5,000 round a day of 155 consumption by the Ukrainians, 600,000, I think, should meet about 50% of that need. So that's a really large contribution from the Germans to overall consumption, or overall sustainment, I should say. Between the two, between the U.S. and Germany, I think we should be able to, hopefully, at least by the end of next year, be able to supply 5,000 rounds per day indefinitely. And then, depending on other producers, say the UK and other producers in Europe, we should hopefully be able to maybe push that up to, say, 7,500 rounds at least, maybe 10,000 if we're very lucky.
Yeah, that is 10,000.
What is
would
Ukraine
be good.
producing? Sorry, I think I have a delay. My apologies. I was just trying to remember what Ukraine is producing in country.
So they're producing 152 in country. They're starting 155 production. I think the first shells may have been produced. I'm not exactly sure. I've heard some things, some low confidence, non-public stuff, but I don't really trust it very much. That allegedly the first couple units have been produced. But again, I'm waiting for more information to verify that. They obviously produced the 152. I've heard bad things about it. I mean, just looking at it, the manufacturing process for it is deeply suboptimal. It's turned. It needs to be forged. Press forged. It's just not a good way to manufacture a shell. It gives very, very poor fragmentation properties the way they're doing it. Not to mention it's very expensive. It's needlessly expensive materials. You waste a lot of metal trying to turn it, which is a form of machining, instead of trying to forge it. And then they're obviously producing 122 rounds, 120 millimeter mortar rounds, 82 millimeter, 81 I can't remember which is the Soviet caliber, and then 60 millimeter rounds, as well as 125 millimeter tank rounds for the Soviet guns. That's kind of spread out across Ukraine as well, and as well as some allied countries. For the 155 shells, I think what they've done is I think they're buying partial shell bodies from abroad and then filling them and fitting them with fuses and charges. It doesn't look like they have complete end-to-end production yet online, but I assume that will be a goal. That will hopefully help maybe a little bit. I don't really know what the plan, what the current volume is, what the target volume is, and over what time frame. But I mean, it's something at least.
Yeah. Do you know if they're making the 73?
Come again?
Do you know if they're making 73 millimeter?
I've seen nothing about that. If they are,
well, that's unfortunate, because I know they have a shortage of that too. So 73 is fired by the BMP-1.
Right, yeah. So I guess broadly in terms of the ammunition, what I would say is that the long-term outlook is probably decent. The main concern is how do we prevent a interim shortfall before the production comes online? I guess that's the main concern. So that's why DPICM was sent. That's why M26 MLRS rockets, they need to be sent as well. This is why we need to work to get the F-16s online as quickly as possible. Get those outfitted with SDBs, small diameter bombs. Boeing needs to facilitize to a higher production rate for the JDAM ER wing kits, and then we need to get GLSDB in theater. Basically, we need to diversify their fires assets, their portfolio of fires assets, as much as possible to take the pressure off of kind of the tube artillery and mortar consumption as much as possible to buy ourselves as much time as possible with our existing inventories to get that additional production capacity online and prevent an interim shortfall. That's kind of the major short to medium term risk is kind of preventing any sustainment issues before we have that additional capacity going.
Yeah, this is all a very significant worry for the Ukrainian offense, because for whatever reason they thought that they could do a mobile offense where they could they thought that they were going to push through, break through a point and exploit it and use their speed to cover ground and capture things quickly. But that completely backfired, obviously. And now we're in a situation where they are having to grind through defenses slowly. Now this strategy can work, but they're running out of ammo very rapidly. So then the United States did something. They gave the cluster munitions, and everybody's ramping up this production. But this is the real issue now, because there's no actual mobile offense. I don't think there's ever going to be a breakthrough. Personally, like if there is, it's not anytime soon. I don't think. Like I don't think we're gonna wake up sometime in a week or two and Ukraine's gonna be like over here. Like I don't think it's gonna happen. I mean, it would be really cool if it did, but I don't think it's going to. So it just means that they need so much ammo, because they're firing like, I don't know, like way more shells per kilometer captured than they ever thought they were going to. And yep, this is why ammo is really becoming a factor in how everything is happening. Because if Ukraine ever runs out of ammo, the offensive stops, obviously. And nobody wants that. Right, so you don't want to give Russia back the initiative and allow them to do the things that they want to do, which is capture more ground. You don't want that. Nobody wants that, because that prolongs the war. So that's, yeah. The ammo is very worrying. It's very very stressful to think about for me. But anyways, over here by Urozhaine, Ukraine has been shelling positions that were once thought to be a gray area, and so this is the map as of yesterday versus today, and you can see that this gray area is now under Russian control. I believe what happened is that this forest strip, and probably this one as well, these are the first line of defense for Russia. Ukraine attacked, they were repelled by artillery, and Russia retook these trenches. So basically how Russia defends, so how Russia defends typically is that they have light infantry in the front. When they're attacked, they tend to fall back, and they man a second line they tempt Ukraine to attack that second line, and in the hopes that they will repel the attack using artillery and air assets. Then, if Ukraine ever captures the first line, they will counterattack to push them out, and the Russian strategy is preferably they just defeat the Ukrainian attack with artillery, and then Ukraine pulls out on their own, and then they move up and retake the ground unopposed. So I think that's basically what happened here. Ukraine attacked, they pulled out, they repelled the attack with artillery, and then they moved back in. So I think that's basically what happened. So yeah, that's kind of all the news I have from the Urozhaine area. Other than yesterday, Russia was attacking, they were shelling Ukrainian position here, which was once a Russian-controlled territory, but is now in Ukrainian control. So that's fun. Now, moving on, I have no news from any of this south, really. There were some tank battles in south of Krasnohorivka, in this mine that Russia attacked recently, and then were repelled, and I think it's still a gray area. It seems that Russia pushes infantry in, Ukraine pushes them back out, and it just changes hands back and forth. I have no news from Avdiivka. I have no news from New York or Toretsk, other than they got shelled today. Now, getting towards Klischiivka and Andriivka. Andriivka, Ukraine has pushed exceedingly close to the town on both sides, within a few hundred meters, probably within 200 meters. They also pushed into kind of this area here the other day, but they were repelled. So Andriivka is more or less being attacked from the top and the bottom. Now today there were kind of the less reliable Russian sources were talking about how Ukraine had made an advance near Andriivka. Now, I don't know if they're talking about moving down this forest strip, which Ukraine very recently attacked down this forest strip, and they took a lot of shelling right at the end of the forest strip, which is right here. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but that happened a few days ago, so that was weird. Ukraine also, like I said, they attacked over here, and they were repelled. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but again, that was a few days ago, so saying it today would be weird. So perhaps Ukraine did advance today, and they don't have to move very far to get into Andriivka. But getting to Andriivka is not really the interesting part. It's getting to this railroad that would be interesting, and again, they are very, very close to this railroad already, within a few hundred meters. And over here, they're also pretty close, within a few hundred meters. So getting to the railroad and crossing it and securing the other side of it would be devastating news for Russia. It would be truly devastating. I don't think it happened, but when they say something like Ukraine gained ground near Andriivka, that these are the sorts of thoughts I have in my head. Although, again, there's no evidence for any of this other than the failed Ukrainian attacks. Now, in Klischiivka, Ukraine is seen moving through the town. There have been some videos recently, specifically this morning, there were videos of Russians in weird places. I think the videos were probably from June, but if they're new, they're Russians in weird places. Places that we know Ukraine has been for a month or so. So in some of these houses, like on the hill. So anyway, so Ukraine is slowly pushing through Klischiivka. Russia appears to be reluctantly losing the town. I'm not sure there's anything they can do about it. They tried this funky attack that confused a lot of people, where we're gonna have to look at this in 3D to understand this, because this attack, I saw so many bad takes on this. It was very confusing. Where am I? Here we are. So just to explain this attack, there's 3 ways to attack Klischiivka, And by Klischiivka, I mean this hill behind Klischiivka, because the town itself doesn't really matter. So there's 3 ways to attack it. You can attack it the stupid way, which is going through the town and fighting up this giant hill. That's the stupid way. Only an idiot would do that. The smarter way would be to attack up this relatively gentle slope. That's what a smarter person would do. That's how Wagner captured Klischiivka. They pushed up this relatively minor, little gentle slope, and they did so with massive casualties. But the other way is to push up this slope, which is more aggressive, but it's not as suicidally stupid as going up the front. So this is what Russia did, and it helped them in that they controlled most of the hill already, and the rest of it was a gray area. So what they did is they came from this railroad, they pushed through the forest, which they more or less control. It was a gray area, but it was kind of under their fire control. So they moved up into this kind of forested area, and then they crossed the forest into this this farm field, and they tried driving down this farm field into the flank of the Ukrainian defensive position of Klischiivka. So you have to think that this trench, this whole big like triangle shaped trench, this is Klischiivka. This down here is irrelevant. So this is the actual town. So this is what they were assaulting. They tried pushing down, and they were destroyed largely by artillery. I think some of the tanks were disabled by mines. One of the tanks like got shot by his own friend, and but yeah, the artillery really did the damage. So this attack was a failure. But this is really the only option Russia has. And I saw a lot of people have a lot of bad takes about this. People were claiming that this was an illogical attack that the Russia would never do. That's not true. This is the only option they have. So people are saying that this is such a weird way to attack. Only Ukraine would do it because like why would Russia ever move this way? Again, this is your only option. You have to fight on some sort of level playing field. You don't want to fight up a cliff with a trench on top. It's stupid. Nobody's going to do that. You have to either go up the long way, which they can't. They would love to, but they can't. Or you have to go up this way. This is the only 2 options. Unless you wanted to attack from Bakhmut and come that way. That's your other choice. But they can't do that either. So, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about Klischiivka. I don't know. What do you think of that tank fight, that charge?
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, do you want me to show it? I don't know if I can show it. This is the attack that they had. I think I can show it. There's not like blood or anything. Okay. So they started out with these vehicles here. So it's like a T-80 BVM, a BMP-2, a BMP-2, a BMP-1, a T-80 BV. So that's kind of their attacking force, and that's a destroyed Ukrainian vehicle there. So they're doing this. So they were attacking down this. This is that tree line I was just pointing to. That was the road beneath it, and this is the trench system over here. And they got hit by a whole lot of artillery. This attack was a disaster. So yeah, this video confused a lot of people. So these losses here, I believe, can't remember which is which. I think this is a BMP-1, I think, and this is a BMP-2, and this is a a T80 BVM Mod 22. So this is like a brand new tank, like hot off the presses. Some of these tanks hit mines. You can see it, they hit a mine. They most certainly hit a mine because of the tracks falling off. And now this tank over here is a T80 BV. So this is a BVM Mod 22, and this is a BV. So yeah, that attack happened right here. So they kind of went up the hill, and just like I said, they kind of rolled this way. Their goal was to get to this trench line. You can see how close they were. How close were they? Let's measure it. They were 350 meters. So they were 350 meters away, and I honestly don't know what they would have done if they got to this trench. I don't know how you capture a trench with a few tanks. I get like your infantry dismounts from the BMPs, right? Assuming the BMPs don't explode, which they did. So I don't really know what their plan was here, unless their goal was just to send wave after wave after wave after wave of more tanks. I don't really know what the idea was here. It seems like it was destined to fail. I don't really know what they're going for, but that is kind of what happened a few days ago. Now, I don't have any real news from the area north of Bakhmut. There were some talks the other day of a failed Russian attack on Smyrna, and then that prompted people to post footage of an attack from like a month and a half ago. So that was kind of a fun bout of misinformation, and I don't really have any news from the front, from the north either, other than Russia is really trying to capture Klischiivka, and I don't know of any progress to date. So yeah. Oh, and there were, I can't remember what town it was, and I haven't mapped it yet. But there was a rumor that Ukraine tried to break into Russia with a DRG somewhere over here, probably around there somewhere. I read the town, and I don't remember what the town is. So yeah, that's kind of all the news I got. That's the excruciatingly detail that I give you of news that really not much happened. So so yeah, that's it. Do either of you have anything else to say?
Do you want me to?
Early
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
you put up. Sorry, my delay is just not going away today. Earlier in the week, you put up that shot that had like 2 weeks of data up there, and I didn't realize that there was still so much action happening up kind of along the northern border, with maybe not specifically Ukrainian troops, but the Russian resistance people, I think. And I just found that really interesting to see that there is actually stuff happening up there on a more consistent basis than we hear about on a regular, like, yeah, just generally.
Yeah, sure. I will show you that as soon as I figured out what happened here. Okay. So this is I apologize for all these stupid labels. They annoy. I literally don't know how to turn them off, and it drives me crazy. But this is this version of it. You can see I didn't post this version on the internet because of the stupid labels. But anyways, so a lot of the stuff that goes on the north is it's like airstrikes. It's a lot of airstrikes. Russia does daily airstrikes, and a few of them in Chernihiv, but mostly in Sumy, and also you see like this area of Sumy. They really love airstriking here. Like I honestly don't know why they do so many airstrikes. It's mostly in the Bilopilia district. So, and also the was it the Hoten district or whatever? I don't know how to pronounce that. But anyways, so so yeah, that's there's a whole bunch of airstrikes, and there's some over here too. This is still Sumy, and then some in Kharkiv. So I map these airstrikes as I see them. A lot of these airstrikes are not exact locations. I just get like it happened in the southwest of this town, or it happened in like the forest near this road, or something like that. So so yeah, these are not like exact markers. They're kind of just kind of close enough, and so yeah, that's a lot of things that happen. Thank you, Catherine. So yeah, that's kind of that. But this is how many like dots that we've made recently. If you ignore all the stupid labels I don't know how to turn off. I only know how to turn them off one at a time, and I'm not gonna sit here turning them all off one at a time, because you have to like go in here and like go to like the settings and like put the label to like 0%. So I turned off that one, but I'm not doing it for all of them. I don't know, like I don't know of a universal setting that turns them all off at once. It's infuriating. So yeah, it's just I was just looking what was it, yesterday or whatever day it was, at how many like things we geolocate, because like a lot of these are actually geolocated and not just like those airstrikes where I kind of randomly guess, like all of these things are like actually geolocated, and it's crazy how many there are. Group them into subgroups. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what the benefit would be. I guess I could, yeah, I could make like all of the rockets one thing and then all the airplanes one thing, but I don't break it down that way. I break it down by day. So, anyways, uh, anyway, John, what did you want to say?
So there is some interesting missile news. A very, very obscure thing. It's probably not going to mean anything to most people, but for context, there is a missile for S-300 and S-400 called 9M96. So as part of the whole 100 family, there's a couple different interceptors. Originally introduced with the S2. Yeah. There's 4
1 second, John. 1 second. You're kind of breaking up.
Is my audio quality bad?
It sounds like there's a thudding sound, like it's hitting your chest or something.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what else? Oh yeah. So there's a couple different missiles in the S-300 S-400 family. So there's 5V55.
You're doing it again. You're doing it again.
This crappy.
No.
How about now?
That's slightly better.
God damn.
Now it sounds like you're very far away now.
Okay, how about now?
That's fine. Just that's fine.
Okay, I physically took my webcam off of the top of my screen. It's now in front of me.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 5V55, which was the first interceptor introduced in the service with S-300P. It was succeeded with 48N6, which was introduced alongside the S-300 PMU-1 or PM1. It's export. So all Ukrainian S-300Ps, they all use 5V55. Russian S-300Ps as well as S-400s, They used mostly 4.8N6s, although they do still have a large inventory of 5V55s. The Landis S300 and S300s, S400s, excuse me. Those are usually 5V55s, although S48N6 has that capability as well, such as that they've used it against Kyiv a couple times. And then beyond that, there are two other missiles that are kind of obscure. There's 9M96 and 40N6. 40N6 is a very long-range interceptor. So, just for context here, the original 5V55 had 80-kilometer range with its final iteration. The DM has a 250-kilometer range. Obviously, these ranges in practice depend on a lot of factors. So just kind of going with these single maximum figures here. 40N6, however, it was supposed to offer S300, or well, really S400, and over-the-horizon capability with a 400-kilometer range, primarily against large, slow-moving targets like airborne early warning and control aircraft. As sort of a long-range anti-access area denial capability against some of those larger assets, those larger fixed-wing assets. It's as far as I'm aware, it's not in widespread service. And it also goes for 9M96, which is a smaller interceptor. That should be up on the diagram that Andrew has up on the screen now. 9M96, you can really think of it as it's the ruble store version of PAC-3, basically. It's fairly small in diameter compared to the prior missiles. They're multi-packed per canister like PAC-3. And they have an active radar seeker, unlike the 5V55 and 4.8N6. And they have a data link. And then they have an attitude control system, meaning they have maneuvering thrusters. They're primarily designed to defeat highly maneuverable targets like aeroballistic missiles, such as ATACMS. They are also have not really been observed in widespread Russian service. They're both specifically only compatible with a very specific and recent TEL transport reactor launcher for S400. That's also theoretically compatible with, I think, S300 PM1 and later. That is the 51P6A TEL. The Russians, I want to say, had produced only a couple dozen of them. What's interesting is that, 9M96 in particular, the only examples of it in Russian service, or in service in general, that we had were with the Russian Navy. 9M96 is also compatible with the S350, and there's a navalized version of S350 called Redut, which is mounted on, I believe, the Gorshkov class guided missile frigates. I believe that's the only place we had seen 9M96 in actual service was in the Redut cells for the Admiral Gorshkov frigates. However, a picture was released. I think it was posted 3 days ago, but it just now was brought to my attention today. A picture of an Indian S400 TEL, a 51P6A, driving down the road with 9M96 canisters. So they were produced for export, apparently. This was the first confirmation we've had of that. We know it was offered in the export market for decades. We didn't know that if anybody bought it. And this is also the first image, as far as I'm aware, of a 9M96 actually integrated with an S400 to an operational service anywhere in the world, as far as I can tell. I've never seen images of 9M96 on a S400 or S300 TEL in Russian service ever, beyond like a couple display pieces. I've never seen a single image of it in Ukraine. I've never seen a single image of it in Russia. There was the S350 in Taganrog that might have 9M96 loaded, but that's basically it. That's the only potential example I've seen in operational Russian service. So I'd kind of assume that it was basically a thing that they had demonstrated and tried to market and was a total flop. but I guess India bought some. But we still have yet to see it in Russian service. My understanding is that at least the early versions of 9M96 are awful. Like there's some test footage of it. It's janky. It's janky. It's all hell. I've heard some specific things through written sources that I'm trying to verify. I've heard some rumors that it might, with the later versions, might have a hit to kill capability. I haven't yet found technical documentation to support that. Allegedly, the later versions, the 9M96M, like the E2, the enhanced ones, E generally denotes export, but you know what I mean, the later versions of the missile, they're supposed to be better, apparently. I'm less clear on that. The people that I've asked about it have blankly gone, oh yeah, it's god awful. But yeah, so I guess it does exist. Again, there's no evidence that it's in any widespread Russian service. I don't know. It probably actually has a tweet about this that I'm trying to find desperately right now. There's a good satellite image of, I think, all of Russia's 5.1 P6A tails, like all parked in a row from like 2 years ago. But yeah, it's an interesting development.
That's interesting. So this image, it shows a launcher with both the these smaller missiles and a bigger missile. So can one launcher have both? That's kind of interesting.
In principle, yes. So a lot of these pictures, I think they have like in the older marketing photos, like they have the 9M96 on the older tails. I don't think that's actually possible in reality. I don't think the 9M96 was ever integrated with the older tails. I think it has to be the newer ones. The newest one, which is the 5.1 P6A.
Yeah, these missiles are a lot smaller, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it is very much analogous to PAC 2 to PAC 3, like going from 4.8N6 to 9M96. It's very, very much analogous. Yeah. I'm also very dubious of the claimed range of these missiles, given their diameter. Like with PAC 3, it's definitely believable when you look at the dimensions of the missile versus its published range. It's deeply, deeply believable. I am deeply skeptical of 9M96's claimed range, at least for I believe the original 9M96. I kind of believe the later ones. It doesn't really look like they've increased enough in diameter to justify it. I know they lengthened it, but I don't really buy that they basically doubled the range, essentially. I'm buying that now the diameter increase.
On this chart, it says they tripled.
Oh my god. It
says they tripled.
I mean, okay, like that's the thing. PAC 3 MSE doubled the range of PAC 3 and for both ballistic and aerodynamic targets, but it's obvious that it's a significantly larger diameter. The Russians are just voodooing this stuff, I swear to God.
Yeah, there's a photograph here of the two next to each other, I think. Well, there's this image. I'm assuming this image is to scale. It's like what? Like maybe 10% longer with triple the range. That 10% is doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
These are the two missiles. Okay, so maybe it's like 20% longer. Man, that 20%'s got to have a lot of fuel in it.
I mean, if you want a substantial range increase, you got to increase the diameter, because I don't want it's what is it? Volume increases linear. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do the derivative in my head right now, because it's the volume of a cylinder is what, pi or squared times 8. So yeah, with the as you increase the height of the cylinder, I think the diameter increases. Or volume. No, I'm not. I'm too tired to do this math right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to do calculus.
Yeah, it's not that much more space. It's like 20% more fuel, maybe. If you put all the extra length only into fuel, maybe maybe it would increase the range like 20%. That seems to be just eyeballing it. That seems about right. I don't see triple the range in this unless like maybe there was like a bug when they launched it, like all the fins went out like a little air brakes, and that won't limit the range. What do you think?
Man, if they went from an explosive payload to a hit to kill system and like got rid of the payload mass, like dropped it substantially and like took off say like 50 kilograms of mass or something and the missile, that could explain some of the range increase. Yeah, Martin's got the math right. Yeah.
So anyways. So yeah. That's interesting. I when I look at these numbers and these charts, I just assume all of them are wrong. But yeah.
And I will say, as somebody mentioned this in the chat, Airpower Australia, they haven't updated their website ages, but they're a very, very good source as long as you remember.
This is Airpower Australia.
They're a very, very good resource for a lot of different aviation stuff. Like I said, the only downside is that the website hasn't been updated in ages and some of the data is old. Yeah. But other than that, they're quite good.
Yeah, that's what this is. So, but I don't trust the numbers. I'm not saying that that the Australia guy. I'm sure he did his best. I just don't trust the numbers.
Well, so those are the numbers. Those are the official numbers published by Alma's ANT. So. Focal in this case because they make the interceptor.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's about it. Oh, so I did find there. Apparently, there's a website, and I mentioned this because I checked with some people, and apparently the Ukrainian government's totally fine with this. There's a website. It's a TDF affiliated website where they have lots of educational PDFs, like ZSU personnel. And apparently they have a guide to Russian cruise missile identification in there that's very, very detailed. And based upon a bunch of wreckage recovered from the early days of the war. It's like 80 pages I'm going through it right now very slowly.
Oh, that sounds exactly like the sort of thing that you'd go through.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of the images in there from our friends. I bet they probably are, honestly.
Strong possibility.
So yeah, I think that's I have really nothing left to add here. There's an attack on Moscow tonight, and I know nothing about it, and I'm gonna go read about it right now, I think. So anyway, there will be another stream on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and it's 9 p.m. Central European time. And if you'd like to come listen to that, you are welcome to. And other than that, I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Ciao.